Hey, good morning. Listen, I got this new coffee mug thing, and this thing here, put your coffee in it. Welcome to Coffee Talk, by the way, if you're not familiar. I like to drink coffee. Yes, I do. Unashamedly, I might add. But this is so cool because you put your coffee in it, and then if you're swamped all day with stuff and you're trying to get a sip here and get a sip there, you just turn this little thing on and it keeps it hot. Okay? Like you can set it to where it keeps it just warm or hot or actually piping. Okay? And then it has a base. You put it back on the base, see, and it's going to keep that temperature at that level. It'll time off after a couple of hours, but basically you've got your way to do, because back in the day you had this where you could sit it on a disc and the cup itself was just ceramic, but the disc is what actually produced the heat on the bottom. And that was good, but you had to keep it near the base like 100% of the time, otherwise your coffee cup is going cold. Yeah, so anyway, welcome to Coffee Talk on this fine Wednesday morning. You've been waiting a while, and I apologize about the inflammation video, but it has been a lot the last couple of weeks with stuff. So inflammation, my gosh, we see about this all the time. And one of the biggest questions about inflammation is, what does it really do? I mean, because we live in a toxic world. We're all going to have inflammation. Okay, that is what it is. But there's different types of inflammation. So when you typically go and ask about, routine advice on inflammation, you'll get told that there are anti-inflammatories that you can take. Not saying that's a bad deal. All I'm saying is, how are those anti-inflammatories actually reversing your inflammation? Are they reversing your problem or just managing your feelings on the pain or the inflammation that you feel? That's kind of the million-dollar question here. In this office, we're going to use things that the body can receive as something natural, something that the body recognizes to be able to deal with inflammation, but also deal with several of the reasons why it might be happening in the first place. So, inflammation can be at a superficial level, it can be at a deep level. Most of the time, we just think about inflammation being something superficial. And what I mean by that is something like, oh yeah, I had a chest cold, I had a sports injury, I had a backache, a back strain, I had a knee problem, I had an upper respiratory thing with like the flu that year, or maybe I even had a tummy bug thing. All those are sort of inflammatory conditions, of course, and issues. But they are more top level. Now, sometimes inflammation goes a little deeper. So let's talk about your person who has arthritis, and of course they feel inflamed, and they do have inflammation and they feel pain. So that person there may have it a long time and become sort of chronic with that situation. And at that point, they actually can have something called a cellular inflammation. Now, what this means is that basically, instead of being inflamed at the actual, more topical level, now you're inflamed at the cellular level, which, the cells are the beginning of life. And so if you're talking about a particular organ like a liver or skin or whatever, or eyeball, then you have cells that make up that particular organ or that body part to function all day long. They replenish themselves. When the cells of those organs or body systems become toxic and have and hold inflammation, they pocket that inflammation, right? It's like if you bang your knee real hard, it's going to swell up. You twist your ankle, it's going to swell up. Why is that? Because your body wants to protect it from further damage, first of all. And secondly, the swelling is a reaction to the state of injury. So if it stays too long, now we're talking about, man, I got this chronic pain. I'm going to the pain clinic. Uh-oh. So now we're at a different level, because we could be dealing with first would have been acute inflammation, now becomes chronic inflammation, and now has potential to damage you at the cellular level. Well, what do you do about that? There's really not a whole lot, that a standard anti-inflammatory is going to do for something that's damaging you at the cellular level. So there are different testing that you can do that will determine, hey, is my inflammation, still a superficial kind where, yes, we want to address that, want to address why you have it, or is it actually tripped over into the netherworld here where you got cellular damage? That's a whole lot different to deal with and obviously a different pattern of things that you have to put in place to reverse that. So that's sort of the two in the way I explain it anyway. And I'm not, there's people that can explain it better than I can, but I'll just tell you, this is how I talk all day long. I like to explain it like I can see it in my head, like I can see the differences. I want to imagine the inflammation of something superficial might just be, hey, I had a sinus thing and I was so inflamed it was painful, I had a headache. Okay, that is a type of inflammation, hands down. Another type of inflammation that's deeper might be your diabetes or your long-standing heart disease, or maybe even long-standing hypertension. Okay, deeper, possibly cellular inflammation situations right there. So that's how I view it, is picture a situation or a particular pain with what organ system it may actually be harming, especially if it's long-term, like arthritis to rheumatoid arthritis, or thyroid problem to now an autoimmune thyroid problem. See, two different ends of the stick there, but the same common denominator, inflammation. Well, what do you do with inflammation? Because your body, to a level, is going to produce this swelling and these mechanisms in response to an immune crisis for the situation at hand. Okay, we can't. That's okay. What's not okay is, why is it still staying there? And why are we just sitting there taking something for pain and inflammation, but then we're not really getting it to heal the thing underneath there? That's the issue. So, obviously, if you talk to any good nutritionist, or anybody who works with dietary change, they'll tell you, hey, food is medicine, so maybe look at your food. Yes, hands down, look at your food. If you're a diabetic and you're still over here in the throes of 18 donuts a day and sugary coffee from the coffee shop, or say you're still over here thinking that eating beans in your vegetable soup is actually okay. Beans are full of carbohydrates, which means they break down to sugar. Maybe you're still eating bread. It breaks down to sugar. So these things beget inflammation. And so if you already have a sugar metabolism problem, whether it's hypoglycemia, type 1, type 2, or type 3 type of diabetes, and I'm not an endocrinologist, I'm just telling you what I know, okay? Because we see lots of different things in the naturopathic world, so we see kind of a little everything. So I'm telling you what I do know. So something like diabetes as an inflammatory state with sugars, it's going to make a whole lot of difference if you change what you're eating, because then you're no longer feeding the monster, so to speak. So you got to change that. But also with that comes fats, okay? Healthy fats, even your bad fats. If you're, having something like elevated sugar levels in your blood work, and your doctor says, "Ooh, yeah, you're borderline, you're getting up there," or "Hey, your number's too high. This is what looks like diabetes." They'll tell you to, check into diet change and things like that. They may want to suggest a medication to you. When we see that here, we have different things we use that will handle breaking down sugar better. Enzyme therapy is one of the best things you can do. But food does matter. So I would tell a person at equal parts. I would say, we have to work on what you're eating, okay? Because clearly what you're eating is gonna either feed your problem or gonna starve your problem. I'd rather know that I'm starving the problem, and that way it can self-regulate a whole lot better, at least 50% of the way, and then deal with whatever damage could be. So in the respect of inflammation at the cellular level, if you are and I'm using diabetes as an example, there's 100 different conditions you can talk about, but diabetes being a sugar issue and a great inflammation issue, if there's damage to that space, then we got to look at, okay, wait a minute, what deals with the diabetes? Then we're probably going to deal with the organs of the gastro pathways. So obviously your pancreas, your liver. You got areas of your body that are going to be responsible for doing something with that sugar. So if those areas are now having cellular toxicity, that's an issue. That's a problem. Now we may have some damage in there. Pair that with the average person these days that says, I've got a gene mutation. I found out I was MTHFR positive. Oh man, now we don't methylate right. We don't detoxify in the cellular level right. Now we got extra sugar in there hanging out. We got extra fats in there hanging out. Sometimes your A1C is elevated because not just of sugar, but because of extra fat content. So have your doctor look at your triglycerides. Sometimes your triglycerides are due to sugar, not just fat. So check into that. That's an inflammatory thing, okay? All right. So sometimes you can have, obviously, what we know to be free radicals and oxidative stress in the cellular level. That damages the cellular level, and that's an inflammation. Okay, so when we talk about things like, oh, carcinogenic stuff like plastics and formaldehyde, don't spray the air freshener, don't breathe it, yeah, all this stuff matters. But also mycotoxins, so like fungal issue, viral issue, parasitic problems, candida, and bacteria. All these things as pathogenic methods all still have a way to get in the cell, damage the cell. So we don't want that. That's an inflammatory process too. Heavy metals, obviously, chemicals, all in the same little batch of stuff there. You toxify the cell long enough in any organ space, and that organ is going to start crying and have problems. And you're going to wonder why these things are going on and go, oh, I didn't know all that was happening. Yeah, over time, it builds up. So left undone, what we end up having is a body that cannot manage any more levels of stress. And if there's anything, I talk about more. There really isn't much I talk about more than the endocrine pathway when it comes to the adrenal glands, the stress hormones. I'm not, back in the day, you talked about stress and you thought that meant, oh, that's just like somebody's going through something, life, they're depressed, they got anxiety, they lost their dog, whatever, stresses. Those are valid issues. They do, hit you in different ways. But you have hormonal functions and responsibilities in your body that are there to come to the aid of stress. But there also comes a time when you've run out of that stuff. And your adrenal glands, out of all your endocrine system glands, are responsible for firing off adrenaline to be able to handle things. And after a while, you can find yourself in something that we all know now very commonly as fight or flight. Your fight or flight system, when that's in action, we have a hard time managing things like anxiety, life stresses. What used to not aggravate us, a year ago, now is just like the epitome of all of our angst. Can't stand it, because we've gotten worse in the anxiety pathway. And all we're told to do is, take a vacation, maybe get on something for maybe an antidepressant, anti-anxiety. So, okay, well, and those may be valid ideas for some people, but let me tell you what, you can't run from your issue. You can't run from your issue. You can satisfy toggling it for a little while with anxiety and depression, but you got to find out, why am I having that? Where's it coming from? And if you are over here in a toxic body, getting hit after hit with stress, illness, mindset stuff, emotions, mental issue, physical, I don't care if you broke your leg. If you break your leg and the healing time takes a while, it's going to dampen the rest of your outlook. You see, it's one thing leads to another. That's the holistic way. Your body knows what's up. You don't believe me? Stub your toe one good time at about 2 a.m. You don't think your little toe matters? All of a sudden, everything goes out the window when your toe don't work right. You know that. You know how you feel. Your toe matters in the big picture, just like when something goes on and challenges your body's defense mechanism with immunity or stresses. You have glands and hormones that are fit to fight for you, but if they've been getting knocked around 25,000 times back to back, you ain't getting up very easy. So your adrenal fatigue could be one of your biggest issues. So that can lead to depletions in that department, which overhauls your nervous system, which is your ability to be able to communicate and respond and all this. And then we wonder why we can't focus and why our kids can't sit still. That's it. So that's a little off topic from just the main inflammation standpoint of this video, but those are all still things that drive worsening inflammation. So it's your choice how you want to take care of your health. You just need to be informed, whether it's something you happen to see us talk about over here or something that one of your doctors speaks to and you're like, hey, that makes sense, that's good, but you're the captain of your ship. Take the information, say, how does this apply to me? What do I do? What's the best route for me? I have to say, a lot of times people come in here already inflamed with things and they're like, hey, I got this thing, can you help? Of course, we'll help. But one of the things I'd like to stop doing is create an environment or a community where people only go to the doctor when they need to be, when they look at the doctor like a repair shop. Can you just repair me? It's like, I understand when we need a need, we get a need met. We have a need, we get a need met. Yes, we want that. We need that. Come in here with an ear problem, I'm going to figure out, okay, let's get that cleared out. Let's figure out what's causing that. Let's see how we can get that mucus out of that space, but also kill off what's causing that problem. Yeah, that's very, very viable, very doable. We're going to do that all day long. But the idea of waiting till you get sick to go get seen about, no. Stop that. Stop doing that. So if you don't have doctors or practitioners who are looking at prevention and how to, mainstay a wellness within your body, even against the grain of some things you might be fighting with, with illness, find you somebody different. Prevention, that's key. We live in a crazy environment. 80% of the stuff in the store, at the grocery store, is banned in other countries. It should tell you something about the U.S. and the grocery stores at our disposal. Yeah, it's hard. We're in a situation. So, reduce what you can in terms of inflammatory foods. Reduce carcinogens and toxins. Look at what you're putting on your body. Some of your makeup, some of your deodorants, some of your shampoos. Look at what, artificial flavors and colorings. You've seen this. You know this stuff. It's coming to light. You don't need more research to know this. It's already there. It's already there. Why do you think they do biopsies on tumors? To find out why they're there. Why we wait until we get one to go figure that out? Right now is the time of prevention. Right now is the time to build inflammation. So inflammation can come from obviously toxins, but also pathogenic things, and obviously from your diet. That's your biggest contributor. Your environment and what you put in your mouth are the two most lucrative ways that you're going to become toxic, whether it's in a good way or a bad way. You can have good toxins, like good probiotic, good prebiotic fibers, things like that. So if you need help with that, call us and let us know. We help with that. And obviously, sometimes you want a little bit of some tangible evidence too. You want some lab work sometimes to figure out, okay, where am I playing my cards at here? I know how I feel, but what does this really mean? Well, you can have your standard blood work done. You can have a blood count done, a metabolic panel done to see how your liver is doing, how your liver enzymes are behaving, if it feels like it's under shock somehow, if your electrolytes are off, if your kidneys are behaving okay, if they're filtering okay. Those are important. That's good. You can even do blood work for your thyroid. You can check all kinds of things. These are good base level ways to figure out if your immune system's in a big crisis or not. Oftentimes, though, what it won't tell you is cellular damage. You can do an inflammation set of tests, like a C-reactive protein or a homocysteine level or a ESR, which is a sedimentation rate, to see how your inflammation is. And those are good tests. Most doctors will run that. If you talk to them, see if they do that. But sometimes it is deeper than that, and you need to go to the cellular level and see what part of me is malnourished or toxic in such a way that this thing I've been fighting with for 6 months or 16 years, is that why it's still here? What is that? So all of which speaks to the main topic of inflammation. So find out about testing. Testing's not the only way now, but it is one valuable way for you to not only figure out where you stand, but how you're progressing in the correction process of getting that thing reversed. So you can give us a call and get in and see one of us. If you can't come in person, we have a lot of people that drive a long way to get here. If you can't come in person, we have a couple of practitioners who do televisits. You could do that.